1, 2, 1, 2. All right, levels look good.
Ditto test.
Let me start recording.
Oh, we could also talk about the fact that Google hired that guy from Apple.
Yes.
Yes, that could be an accessory of the Pixel discussion.
It could.
Yeah.
It could. I think that's a good one to talk about. Let me just scroll through here for a few more.
I'll admit, I paid so little attention to that because it just did not seem important.
I mean, it's important if it works.
Yeah. It's important if it doesn't work too, because Google
We should also
calibrates a bunch
talk
of money.
about LG maybe building a Pixel.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be good to discuss. And we could also talk about the cancellation of one of the Pixels.
The Muskie.
Yeah, supposedly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
So we have Walleye and Timon still, right?
Yeah, or how do you pronounce Taman? I was saying Taman.
I just see AI and I read it Timon.
Okay.
But let's see. Oh, Google's so helpful.
Okay. All right. So I think we got enough to kind of flesh that out. Oh, we can talk about the E4 and E4 Plus, right? Maybe we could take that to text.
Hold on. The E4. Let me look. Hold on.
Oh yeah, Kyle brings up something in the chat. You had, in your little Timon post, you had said you had speculation you wanted to keep out of the post, and I'm quite curious.
I'm still not going to speculate.
Aw. Can you
Actually,
take
it was to do with the fact that the LG manufactured Taman. So
We cannot talk about that thing.
okay, got it. Great. We won't talk about that thing, whatever that thing was. I don't even remember what it was anymore.
Yeah, what's it?
It was nothing.
It was
It never
nothing.
happened. Nothing
No.
happened. Nothing.
It was a
Okay.
collective hallucination.
Glad we were all there to experience that. Let's see.
It's a good thing we weren't recording
I
that or
think
anything.
that about it covers it. Yeah. All right. Open up the chat here.
Good old chat.
I do not have foot and mouth syndrome. I can't put my feet don't reach that far.
I'm not that flexible.
Okay. All right. So ready to do the clap. So on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Great. All right. And I'm going to start the intro, I guess. Welcome to the Android Please podcast. I'm your host, David Ruddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwan.
I'm Cody Toombs.
And I'm Jordan Palmer.
And this week on the show, we've got a good handful of topics to discuss. And I think we should probably start with one that was a bit late to get to for us. And that was my fault, 100%, completely me. And that is the HTC U11, which we posted our review of that phone yesterday. So Ryan also has a U11, I believe, and so we can kind of discuss a little bit about the phone. I mean, my overall takeaway after using it for like maybe over 2 weeks, I've had it a while, is that it's good and it's fine and it does most things pretty well. I don't think anybody's going to buy it. I don't see any compelling reason to go buy this phone.
Yeah, I don't think that most people will find the design very enticing, because even if it doesn't break, it looks like it's gonna break.
Yeah, and I think it's like it sounds so petty to ding HTC for that, because I think it comes down to like, okay, yeah, the G6 and the S8 are like glass sandwiches too, and the S8 is apparently like the most fragile smartphone of all time, according to some company that was doing durability testing on it. But at the same time, this seems...
I mean, okay, so there's that guy on YouTube, I don't recall his name,
Jerry rig everything?
Yes, who breaks every phone that comes out. And God bless him, because I don't want to do it. So he, I think just the other day we posted the U11 video that he did, and he got it to like snap in half basically, because of the way the screen just sort of sits on top of the metal frame. So like if it gets bent, it doesn't have the structural strength from the glass to fall back on. So like even though the Galaxy S8 is all glass too, the way the screen fits into the frame, it doesn't give as much when you bend it.
I thought it was that the back glass panel sits on top.
Oh, that's probably what.
And so there's not that extra rigidity in there. So this is not a phone you want to sit on. Definitely. I mean, if that's a concern for you, I admit it's kind of a niche issue. I mean, but just in general, like I just don't like the way that these phones look. HTC's I don't like the way it looks at all.
It's like it's really pretty when you have it just sitting there and you glance at it like, oh, that's kind of fun. This like electric blue phone, but then you touch it and it gets fingerprinty and it just feels not right. I don't know. There's something about the treatment that HTC does that just gives the glass like an extra slippery feel. It's
very, very slippery. It's easily the most, like in recent memory, the most slippery phone I've ever used. And I think that's also down to the rather high level of polish on the aluminum siding. It's pretty slippery as well. And then the way it's shaped around the side. So it's kind of, if you're looking at the camera here, it's got a pretty round edge to it. And so I feel like it digs into your hand a little bit. It makes the phone feel wider in a way that maybe the Pixel definitely doesn't feel that way to me. The Pixel feels more comfortable in hand for sure, even though it's basically the same size. And then the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus are obviously much narrower than the U11, so they don't feel quite as uncomfortable.
This phone it feels like something that would have come out a year or two ago.
Yeah, it does. It feels a little old.
Yeah, I feel it's like we're starting to see the lack of R&D that HTC has been doing, because they've obviously been taking it on the chin sales wise, and it feels like they haven't been doing what they need to do to keep creating phones that people like.
Yeah, so go ahead, Jordan.
So comparing it to the 10, how does it measure up?
Ooh, I like the industrial design of the 10 much better.
Oh yeah, the 10 was a beautiful phone that felt like really solid. I would use that before I would use the U11 for sure.
That's the impression I got just by looking at it and reading about it.
Like, you know what? If HTC could just make the 10 again, but like with new hardware, I think that would be a better phone.
Don't get me wrong. I think the 10 still would look dated this year too in its own way, but it would look better than this.
Yeah, the industrial design thing HTC has going on, I just don't think it's gonna work.
No, they're trying. I feel like their design direction is like, what if we just made a phone that's literally a polished rock? And
I at the same with the U11 and the U Ultra, like I would set them on my desk and walk away for a few minutes. Yeah, they're in a different place.
They are. Like I've had this phone fall off my desk numerous times, especially when it's charging and the cable puts any kind of torque on it, it'll just pull it straight off the desk.
Yep.
You gotta be careful.
Like I was carrying it the other day. I had it in my car, sitting in the same place on the center console where I always set my phone when I plug it in. And like every time I turned, it would like rock back and forth and like threaten to just like jump out of the little trough it was in. And it was so annoying.
Yeah. So I would say, okay, despite that gripe, which is, it's one of those things where like, yeah, it feels like an older phone. Most other things about it are pretty good though. So the camera's good, the battery life's good. I feel like the performance is passable, at least by Samsung standards. Not by Pixel standards though.
Yeah.
And it generally is it's a good phone. And the fact that you could get one for $600 on pre-order, not a bad deal. Yeah.
I do feel like Sense is starting to look a little old too, though.
It is, but Sense is also kind of like, not only is it getting old, it's also dying. So it's, every release I feel like HTC does, there's less and less Sense involved. At this point, Sense is like a skin and like a few apps and some settings.
Except really they added this. I think it was on the the U Ultra 2, that like assistant thing.
Sense Companion.
Yeah, that thing. I don't even
Worthless.
understand that.
So gone are the days of Sense 5.5 and 6, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when Sense people liked Sense because Android was so damn ugly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, back in the day, Android was horrible looking.
Like when the 1X came out, that was what, gingerbread era?
Oh yes, and the gingerbread build of stock Android was disgusting.
Oh, it really was. And so Sense was like, whoa. It was so overstyled. Don't get me wrong, but like it was.
Oh yeah, it was shiny and there were gradients and.
It was so much better than TouchWiz though, because TouchWiz really had that Fisher Price vibe going on. So
it did. Yeah. That was definitely
plus
like
that clock
crazy
widget.
TouchWiz.
That clock widget was awesome.
Oh yeah, the Sense clock widget was, everybody loved the Sense clock widget.
Oh yeah, and that was why there were like 2 or 3 apps on the Play Store that just aped that clock, and you could, put it on any device. And for a while, people were always using that. Every screenshot I saw had that app, the name of which escapes me now, but they had that on their home screen.
The HTC clock was the whole reason I bought beautiful widgets.
That's it. Yes, beautiful widgets.
Yes, something widgets. Yeah, I remember
that. I think for a while that was like the top selling app.
Yeah, it was up there.
Yeah, definitely. People really love that app.
Yeah, I used it for a long time too. Where they had a bunch of skins and stuff, and then it was like, why do I have 2 clocks on my phone? I don't really need this.
I still have Cronus, but it's more for the dash clock and calendar stuff. But anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the U11. I would say that everything about it feels largely competent smartphone. I don't know about yours, Ryan, but mine does have like embarrassing light bleed on the display along the bottom. It's very annoying to me.
Mine has. I didn't see any. I looked the other day at it to see if I could detect any, but I wasn't in a dark room. I should look more later, but I didn't notice anything really egregious.
I noticed mine immediately when I got it. I mean, I talked to Dan Seifert at The Verge, and he said his didn't have it either, so maybe I just got a really bad one. But when I got the U Ultra, the light bleed was terrible too. So
yeah, that one did on my review, and it had light bleed. Yeah. So I think you told me the other day that you turned off Edge Sense.
I did. I just couldn't use it anymore. I couldn't stand accidentally using it, basically.
Maybe I'm just more gentle with how I hold my phone, but I've actually found myself actually liking it. It's
interesting. I like the concept.
I've never turned it on accidentally.
I definitely did several times because I had set to the flashlight, which seems like kind of the handiest use case for me. Some people might argue the camera, but
so I have it set to do. I was pleasantly surprised that you could do this. To do a short squeeze is the camera, and a long squeeze is the flashlight.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I mean, I think it does. I think it's a clever feature, and if HTC can expand on this and maybe come up with new use cases, I think it could be a good thing, a good selling point. But right now, it's just kind of like, all right, it's fun, but it's not a reason to buy the phone.
Yeah, I definitely isn't a reason to buy the phone. And honestly, I think that for normal people, it's probably going to be a confusing feature. I mean, it sounds simple, but at the same time, it's such a weird way to interact with your phone.
People managed to figure out the Moto X gestures.
Yeah, but that's to me, that's more natural, actually. I prefer the Moto X gestures to the squeezing.
Yeah, I think so.
Great.
Yeah, so I think those are a little different.
Yeah, I mean the Moto gestures, like they're different gestures, so you can do a lot of different things. With Edge Sense, it's like you can pick 1 or 2 if you want to really be, committed to it.
Yeah, like I said, I love the concept. But
the ultimate question, David, is: does the U11 have double tap to wake?
It does.
Great.
Yes, I think HTC's been doing that for a while.
Yeah, I think I disabled that too because I also accidentally activate that. So
do you just like bear hug your phone when you pick it up?
I don't know. Like when I hold it, like I'm like manipulating it with my hand, and so like it's just I guess it's a nervous habit or something. So I can't do a lot of these like things that activate your phone via touching. So yeah, I have to be fairly careful. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm weird. So yeah. I will say overall though that if I had to use this phone, it's pretty good. The battery life's good, like I said, and the camera's pretty good. The camera has its typical HTC issues, I would say, but the image quality overall is very strong. And it's a fairly light modification of Android 7.1, and it's Android 7.1, not 7.0, unlike the G6 and the S8. So you do get that. I just don't think HTC has the visibility anymore.
Yeah, the fact that you can only buy this on Sprint is like, it's very womp womp. They should, I don't know. If HTC can't at least offer some sort of payment plan, then I don't know who's going to buy it.
Well, you can. Well, not really. So what they do is you can sign up for a PayPal credit on HTC's website.
Yeah, no, that
doesn't count. Yeah.
Which PayPal credit, awesome, but yeah.
Yeah, no, PayPal credit is great, but that doesn't really count. I agree. So yeah, I just think poor HTC. The cool thing about it, as far as the unlocked version goes, it does work on Verizon. It's tested and everything, and so it's compatible with the network. Even if it doesn't support Verizon CDMA, it works as an LTE only device, which is neat.
Huh. That's cool. I remember they were going to try to do that with the
1A9.
Yes, that, and then they had to cancel it.
They did, and this one it seems like it does work. I believe I read on Android Central that they tried it out, and it's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, Verizon has complete overlay of its 3G network with LTE now, I think, right? So it
pretty much. I can still find some CDMA occasionally, but it's pretty tough. Yeah, I think it's something like 99% of pops are covered in LTE at this point. So yeah, I would say yeah. So I think HTC did. This is probably the best phone HTC's made in a while, I would say. But they still just feel a little bit behind, and that's gonna hurt them. Even compared to LG, HTC feels a little behind, and so I think that kind of says something. I like the cameras better on the U11. I think the battery life's better on the U11 than the LG phone, but the LG phone looks and feels far more 2017 than the U11 does. The U11 is more like a car that's based on an old platform, but that performs very well compared to modern cars, but still has kind of the look and feel downsides to an older vehicle. So, but yeah,
fair enough.
I'd say that's kind of encapsulates the U11.
Okay, let's talk briefly about this ZTE watch, which in and of itself is not necessarily the most exciting thing because who really wants a ZTE smartwatch? But so it's supposed to be one of the launch devices for T-Mobile's Digits program, which is the thing where you can share your number across multiple devices or get multiple numbers on a single device. And T-Mobile was really jazzed about this when they announced it recently. I think it came out publicly, like out of beta at the end of May. So ZTE sent this watch with the understanding that it worked on Digits. And T-Mobile is like, oh, actually, it does not. Very confusing because the product page says that it works with Digits. I spent about an hour and a half talking to T-Mobile trying to figure out how to activate this watch. And they're like, at the end of the day, they're just like, actually, we just don't think it works yet. Which seems like, I don't know, something they should have looked into before launching the device. But at any rate, eventually this will be a thing you can buy for under $200 and connect it to your T-Mobile account, and you don't have to pay any extra if you want to just use the number you already have on it.
So wait, it will work with Digits eventually?
It will, whenever T-Mobile figures out whatever their problem is. I talked to ZTE about this before I posted the review, and I was like, here's the situation. If you want to reach out to T-Mobile and get back to me, I will update with what you tell me, but for the time being, this does not work. So to test it, I just have a separate line, just to see how it works, because it has 3G instead of LTE. Which is sort of a cost-saving measure because it's a $192 smartwatch. So pretty cheap for a smartwatch, especially with LTE. And it's not a bad watch. It looks nice enough. It looks very similar to the Gear S3, actually. The band that it comes with is kind of not very good. It doesn't have NFC or heart rate monitor or an ambient light sensor. But again, cheap watch. It has pretty much the same internal hardware as other watches and a completely round AMOLED, 400 by 400, just like a lot of other watches. It's, I mean, it's good for the price. And once T-Mobile figures out whatever they have going on with digits, I think it would be sort of a compelling add-on for people who are interested in smartwatches and are already on T-Mobile. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very confusing how every T-Mobile person I talked to was like, "Oh, you need to order a SIM card." I'm like, "Nah, this watch doesn't actually have a removable SIM card. It has an eSIM." And they're like, "Okay, hold on. Let me just put you on hold for a while." And 10 minutes later, okay, yeah. So you don't have to order a SIM card, but still, we don't know what we're doing. So,
Good old T-Mobile.
Yeah.
It's a decent looking watch. It kind of reminds me of the watch style, but not
massive.
as dull.
Well, the style is really small.
You mean the Sport?
Oh, Sport. I was thinking of the Sport.
Yeah, it is a very similar size to the Watch Sport. I mean, it's the size of a large men's watch, which is pretty common lately. Like every smartwatch that comes out, it's like I feel like I have to say, okay, it's like a big watch.
It's a hockey puck, man. It's big.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think it's like 45 millimeters wide, and it's as thick as the Watch Sport. So
Yeah, I can. I don't miss wearing a smartwatch at all, and that's part of the reason. I never even stepped up to the giant ones.
The most comfortable watches still, I think, are the second gen Moto 360 and the Watch Style, and they're both small. So
I thought the original Huawei watch is fairly comfy. With the
that one I would put that one at a close third, I guess. I mean, I don't like how the lugs are shaped on that one. So they sort of, because I have tiny wrists, maybe it's fine for people who have more normal hands. But yeah, no, I mean it's just slightly less comfortable. But I mean, I guess the bottom line is like people need to make smaller watches. I don't know. They just get so ambitious with like, let's put whatever technology in here, and who cares if it's 45, 46 millimeters wide.
Well, and we know they're capable of it because there was the Moto 360 women's, the Huawei women's, and then the Gear S2 Classic was tiny.
Yeah, I think the Gear S3 was a lot bigger. I guess I assume because of the Samsung Pay stuff. Or no, wait, did the Gear S2 did the Gear S2 have Samsung Pay?
Gear S2 only had Samsung Pay for NFC.
Oh, okay,
that's a magnetic strip.
Yeah, I think the MST makes things a little, more difficult.
I mean, it takes probably a lot of engineering to make a smartwatch really compact when it has all this stuff.
I think the Gear S3 also has like ludicrous battery life.
It's insane. I can wear this thing all day, and it will be at like 84%.
Yeah, so because it's the thing, it's like a size of a dinner plate. Like it's massive.
I mean, it's basically the same size. It's basically the same size as the Quartz, but slightly thinner.
Is it? I thought it was definitely wider.
I think they're both about 45 millimeters, I want to say.
Okay. I could have sworn the Gear S3 was wider than most watches, and that's how they kept it relatively thin. But I don't know. Okay. In other news this week, I think we are going to talk about phone unlocking in Canada, which is a thing now. So Canada has laws.
Yeah, you won't have to unlock your phones anymore. That's the thing.
You won't.
They'll just be unlocked starting December something?
Yeah, I don't know
December
the exact
1st.
dates.
Yeah, so I don't know. That seems like a pretty good thing. Maybe we should get that here.
It will never happen, though.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't say never. I just have a feeling this is one of those things that's going to we'll slowly like wheel our way towards it. Programs will kind of come into effect until the until the carriers are basically saying, you know what, it doesn't matter anymore. So yeah, we'll just let you have it.
I mean, AT&T will fight tooth and nail against that.
Oh yeah, they'll be the last to fall, but Verizon's already sort of half there.
Yeah, well, they had to stop locking devices because of the LTE agreement, the Spectrum auction a while back. But I mean, they do a lot of other kind of jerky things, like just loading apps on the phone that make you think it's not going to work. Like it tells you need to activate the phone and you don't have the right SIM card, but like you can actually just kill that app and it'll be fine. But I mean, and there's no guarantee that the phones you get from Verizon will have the right LTE band. So it's just kind of a completely different mess.
Yeah. So the chance of this ever happening in America is like -4%. I feel like
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Wouldn't it be nice?
I mean, Cody might be right. We'll eventually see it, but
Well, I guess
Well,
nobody can force the carriers to unlock all of the bands to make that unlocking useful.
right.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally, if future spectrum auctions also had a similar open access clause to the 700 megahertz a couple years ago, that might be one way to get more carriers to agree to unlock their devices.
Yeah, and that was only because Google made that a stipulation.
They
of their bid.
bid up the price.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, everyone used to think SMS, like text messaging, was never possibly going to be free. They were always going to gouge people for that. And then one day it started happening as part of plans, basically so they could hustle people into...
They found new things to gouge you with.
And they always will.
Yeah, I feel like at some point they'll just find, hey, here's a way that we can twist this thing that we don't care about anymore into an advantage that we can use to get people to do something else. It's always a trade.
Especially with Verizon and AT&T.
No, I wouldn't count out T-Mobile or Sprint.
No, but the more stubborn ones will be the most frustrating for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who knows what will come up next.
Yeah, so Canada, better at phones than America. Although I've heard some pretty terrible things about carriers in Canada too. So
So have I. But I mean, at least they won't lock your phones anymore.
yeah, so that's nice.
They're going in the
I wonder
right
how much
direction.
of a problem it already was. Like, if this became a law, someone had to want to do it for some reason. Someone had to push it through. I wondered, like, what the impetus was for that. Was if there was a big fight over it, or if someone was making a fuss for some reason.
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with the politics behind this, so I couldn't really say.
I do suggest though that everybody go to the website and read the article on this because the hero image is fantastic.
The hero image is pretty good, and you can thank Ryan Hager for slapping that together.
And he was worried it wouldn't be good enough. He thought it was too sloppy. I was like, no, it's fine.
Ryan's hero standards are very high, and we love him for it. So, yeah. The other big announcement this week, I think it was relatively quiet, this week was relatively quiet. But Motorola announced the new E4 and E4 Plus, both of which surprisingly are coming to America. I'm surprised.
Yeah, they're also going to have an Amazon version, I think, of the Plus, one or the other. It's going to be one of the Amazon Prime phones, so it's going to be mega cheap. It's probably going to be a very good deal if you just need like a cheap phone real quick.
Yeah, especially for the Plus. I feel like if somebody were to say, like, I need a phone under $200, what should I get? It's like, yeah, get the E4 Plus. I mean, the camera could just be potatoes, and I wouldn't even care. Just get that.
And there are going to be versions of the E4 that have a fingerprint sensor. Like, that's going to be a super cheap phone to have a fingerprint sensor.
Really? Is it not just the E4 Plus?
No, the E4 will too, but not everywhere. I think it varies by market. So I think the US version gets a fingerprint sensor, but does not get NFC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see Lenovo pulled a Huawei there. No NFC for North America.
I've got to say though, for $50 more for a battery that's so ridiculously huge.
Yeah, it's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, I think, in the E4 Plus. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That thing was a 720p display. That thing will go forever.
Yeah, you will not be able to kill that phone.
It'll probably last the better part of a week.
At least the North American version gets the Snapdragon, not the MediaTek nonsense.
I don't know which of those is a more power efficient chip. I don't know anything about the MediaTek.
I'm not a fan of that 6737. It's an unfortunate chip to use sometimes.
I see. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
That's why you thrust all that stuff at me, David.
Yeah, it is. So so you'll be able to get it up to 32 gigs of storage on the E4 Plus. I wonder, did they say what's going to cost to ramp up the storage? Doesn't look like
I
they
don't
did.
think they had. I don't think they had those pricing tiers, at least not in the announcement. But they, we should look and see what they cost. I forget off the top of my head, but
It's
they're
a-
like,
Yeah, it's 179 for the E4 Plus and 129 for the E4 in the US.
that is a good
It's a
amount.
Yeah,
very
wow.
good value for sure.
Is it aluminum or is it just a aluminum
It's
looking
so
plastic?
I thought at first that it was aluminum, like the new G phone, but I think it's just plastic that in the pictures is sort of styled to look like aluminum.
Yeah, because they used to do that on phones where the plastic would look like metal.
Okay, and so for the E4, to clarify, the US does not get the fingerprint scanner for the regular E4.
Oh,
Only
of
for the
course.
Plus.
It does. Oh wait, I thought it maybe vary by carrier.
Okay,
They're
maybe it
carrier
does.
versions. They're carrier versions of these two, and they're for some reason they're slightly different.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that will vary by carrier. Yeah, but on our post for the E4, it says not US, so maybe we need to clarify. They also ship with Android 7.1, which for a budget phone, again, really good. You would expect 7.0 probably. So
Man.
I think you still got some of the Moto magic here.
You will
They
not be
seem
able to
do
kill
things
that
right.
phone. That phone's
Yeah.
going to go
I can't. I'm going to be very curious to see all the battery tests for the E4 Plus and just see how hard it is to run down that phone.
Not to be a massive cynic though, but will it ever get updates?
Probably not.
It'll get one update probably.
Probably to like what? Like maybe it'll get O.
I think it'll get O, and that'll be it.
Okay. I wouldn't even necessarily hold out for O, but
Yeah, that's exactly it. I have very little
holding out for
optimism about their update.
But if you're
especially
going to get stuck on a version, at least Nougat is pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah. So the other thing to note is that the US version of both of them, they don't have NFC. So which is because we don't have enough NFC in America to justify putting an NFC coil in our phones, apparently.
Yeah, whatever, Lenovo.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when Huawei made that excuse, in January with the 6X, I didn't buy it then.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, come on. Like anywhere that takes Apple Pay, it takes Android Pay, and so it's a lack of consumer education in America, not a lack of available ways or available points of sale.
Even where I live, we're getting more NFC.
Yeah, it's definitely expanding.
Yeah,
So
I've
it's
seen-
not
I've
going to be
seen
an
it.
excuse here soon.
I've seen it pop up a lot here too. Just in the last year or so, there are a lot more places with NFC scanners.
Pushes it really hard. There's Apple and Android Pay stickers all over the pin pads, the doors, the check stands. So
Yeah. So even without NFC though, I've got to say both of them seem like very compelling values, and even if you're not guaranteed an update to Android O for the money, can you really complain? It's they seem pretty good. So hopefully we'll be hearing more about those phones soon. That was probably the big hardware announcement for the week. We did have a rumor on the site that we posted about the upcoming Pixel phones, and there was then another rumor that followed from 9 to 5 Google that I think put some context there that was needed. So according to sources that we've been working with, Google was basically working on 3 phones. They were working on Walleye, Muskie, and Taman. And so basically it was a Pixel XL, and a Pixel
Double
XXL. Yeah, exactly, a Pixel double XL. And what ended up happening is the traditional XL, it sounds like, is dead. And that's supposedly Muskie. So the reason it's dead is, I believe, because Google has decided to pursue Taman or Timan, however you want to pronounce it, the even larger Pixel. And at the time, I said there's some speculation I had about why they might have done this. And then not within a few hours, 9 to 5 Google posted a story saying that they believed LG was manufacturing Taman. And I also believe that to be the case based on some information that I've seen. And I think that seems very plausible. And if I were to speculate, I would guess that the reason Taman started to be developed in the first place, there's that story that went around a few months back about how Google was investing hundreds of millions of dollars in LG's new mobile OLED display venture, like lots and lots of money. And I would not be surprised if Taman will be one of the first phones to feature LG's new OLED displays. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be an older display panel and Google's just thinking ahead. But it seems like a weird coincidence for sure. And we also know that there's a global AMOLED panel shortage. And probably this year, the shortage will be exacerbated to a much greater extent because of Apple and the iPhone 8, which is widely rumored to have an AMOLED panel, almost certainly sourced from Samsung, because only Samsung could provide the necessary volume for Apple to make that switch.
Yeah, because there was that post back last month where the investor claimed that LG's first OLED phone is coming in Q3 this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, many people thought it was the V30, but it could also be Taman.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's the V30. I think that's a reasonably good bet too. But I would not be surprised if LG is making a Pixel phone, that it's going to have one of those fancy new OLED displays.
I wonder if it'll be that weird aspect ratio to the 18:9.
Would not be surprised. I'm not saying I have any information about that. I'm not saying that.
I feel like this is the year that phones are going to just start doing the very tall aspect ratios. And it would make more sense if Google's saying 5.5 inches isn't really big enough for an XL. If we're doing like the really tall screen that fills the entire device, it wouldn't be dramatically different than the smaller regular Pixel. Because look at the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. They're like the screen sizes of both those are very big, like measured diagonally, but the phones themselves are pretty small.
Yeah, and I think Google still has plenty of time to make the switch. I mean, I assume the Pixels won't be out again until October. So they've got 4 months here ish to do that. And I definitely agree that if everybody else is changing the aspect ratio, including supposedly the iPhone, Google has to has to do that if they're going to look remotely up to date.
Yeah, I mean, phones have been 16:9 for years now. Maybe it's time to try something else.
Ever since we got away from small QHD into 720.
I
mean, we had some weird ones in there, like the Optimus Vu.
That doesn't count, though.
Doesn't count, yeah.
No, people have to actually buy a phone for it to count. I don't think anybody bought that.
There's some aspect ratio oddities now and again.
Echo.
Quite rare, sure. So I think it's a good bet that if LG is making Taman and Taman is going to be the Pixel XL this year, that it could have the longer aspect ratio display, and probably I would assume that Google would want to go for probably a overall device footprint similar to the current XL, but with more screen.
Yeah, that phone has famously big bezels. If you could put a bigger screen in that, it would be probably a very pleasant looking phone.
Well, if you narrow it a bit too, like the width of the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as the other thing is, so what does that mean for the smaller phone? I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the smaller phone. I kind of wonder if Google's going. So the rumor this year for Apple is that there's only going to be one next generation iPhone, right? It's going to be iPhone 8, and then you'll have iPhone 7s.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, so I would not be surprised if Google pursues a similar strategy where we have a regular Pixel in last year's body style, and then the Pixel XL this year is the true next generation device with all new components and everything, and maybe the regular Pixel is a little more kind of dinky this year than the full-on XL. But I don't know what Google's strategy is there.
Did that, they would at least have to upgrade some of the internals on the small Pixel.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have the same SoC, and I would not be surprised if it still ends up being a Snapdragon 835, or if Qualcomm does like a mid-cycle refresh, like an 836, something like that. Yeah.
Last year the Pixel was the first to ship with the 821. So
which in the 821 isn't even a new chip; it's just a rebinned 820. So, yeah, same deal. So we don't really know much else, but I feel like I think that hopefully the kind of question of is Google doing 3 phones this year for Pixel? No, it's probably 2. I'm pretty confident that there's going to be 2 phones again. There's going to be a big one. There's going to be a small one. And
I feel like that was probably always the plan. They just had 3 irons in the fire and were expecting to get rid of one of them
I
eventually.
mean, maybe, or maybe something changed and they decided that, well, what if we pursue this third option? I mean, I guess the question also, I would guess, is that Google probably wasn't 100% willing to bet on LG's OLED business being viable if that's the technology they're going with the display. If there were any kind of delays, then that could, they wouldn't.
Oh, yeah,
want to
maybe
hinge on that.
maybe the mid one that was canceled was planned to just be a flat, like a regular 16:9 display,
Yeah,
and then
maybe that was just plan B. Like,
Yeah.
well, if we can't do the OLED thing this year, then we have something else that can work.
Let's also throw in the third possibility that that be HTC built. Just objectively, they had a horrible time trying to keep up with a relatively small demand. Maybe Google just wasn't that optimistic and basically said, you know what, we'll just take that off your plate.
And and that's something to discuss. The demand for the Pixel may have been rather not big.
Yeah. So there was a story that started going around this week when the Google Pixel launcher hit the 1 million install mark on the Play Store, and what that means for the Pixel phone and how many Pixel phones are out there. So, there have been several takes on this, let's say, and I think that everybody wants to hedge their bets in one direction or the other on this, whether you don't trust the install count on Play Store or whether you do trust it to a fault and have to then consider all of the technical reasons why then the install count is not necessarily completely accurate from 1-to-1 in terms of devices. So I think that some people said there's no way that Google's only sold 1 million Pixels that are out there. There has to be more, based on sales estimates at carriers and figures like that, and analyst estimates for Pixels. And then, where we kind of landed, I think, was, well, 1 million is probably actually more than the figure because you have to count for factory resets, resold devices, probably refurbs, and all that stuff too.
It doesn't count a reset, does it? It counts like an account, right?
Okay, so the install number is 100% based on the account.
Okay.
Period. So if one person bought, let's say, 20 pixels, it still counts as one install. Or by contrast, if somebody sets up a pixel, then sells it to someone else who resets it and sets up their account, that counts as 2 installs, but it is still only 1 pixel.
So I mean, it's and some people have multiple accounts on their phone. So does that count?
Yes. We kind of ruled that out. It's not being much of an issue, right?
It is not. It can create here and there, but mostly not, because there's one primary account. So unless that one's more complicated, just because it depends on which account is doing the updates. If for some reason somebody signs in to their account, then opens up the Play Store, hits update all, and that's the account that gets the Pixel launcher update, then that'll count as an install. But how often are you not on your primary account?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, maybe some of the numbers are too high, some are too low. It probably evens out to, I would guess it is probably about what the Play Store says it is.
I would expect so, or just a bit below.
The Play Store. Yeah.
Let's just throw this one in there because it's inflating it at least a little bit. So many people were using custom ROMs. It was just a major thing to mod your ROM so that it would work, and tons of them were downloading the updates on non-pixels. So
yeah, just editing the build prop file, right?
Yeah. So it was really easy, and that got to be a popular thing. So I would just about bet money there's, I don't know how many that is, but I bet it's a non-trivial percentage.
Yeah. Okay, but so to put in context, 1 million phones, it's an okay number of phones, but it's not like a big flagship level
Well,
sales
I
number.
believe Motorola, last year, was bragging that they had sold 1 million Moto Zs total
Yeah.
at some point,
Yeah.
and that included the Moto Z Play and the Force and the regulars.
So last year, after the first whole quarter that the Galaxy S7 was available, Samsung said that they sold 10 million of them.
So yeah,
They
okay.
haven't said what the Galaxy S8 is, but they said that it's higher. So, I mean, the Pixel is not selling anywhere near the level
Yeah,
that
obviously.
Samsung's phones do.
Yeah, but I think it's so that's pretty impressive still for one carrier in the U.S. and then the Google
Yeah.
Store. The Google Store basically probably is like a rounding error compared to Verizon sales in the U.S. I would have to think.
If they could get Pixels on more carriers, then I think that would be a more fair
And
comparison.
more countries. I mean, the phone's available in very few countries. It's just not widely distributed. And I think
And they haven't even had them in stock half of the time.
Yeah, and the other thing is outside the U.S., I'm guessing Google's ad spend is basically non-existent.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if there is some serious discontentment with the HTC deal. If they sold 1 million phones or somewhere around there, and HTC was not able to keep up with that.
Okay, so to go back to the AMOLED thing, I wonder if it just came down to how many parts can we source? Because this has been a problem for everybody. Like Huawei basically shifted some phones to LCD because they couldn't get AMOLED panels. This is it's a very real issue.
Yeah,
So I have to wonder if HTC works with Taiwanese manufacturers, and there are a couple of AMOLED manufacturers in Taiwan. And they're basically the Samsung alternative, although I believe the Pixel uses a Samsung design for its panel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Samsung manufactures all of the panels, but yeah, I just wonder if it's a capacity issue and if there's nothing HTC could do about it.
Yeah, I mean, how many U Ultras do you think they've sold since that came out at the beginning of the year?
I'm gonna go with negligible.
Yeah. They're probably just their production facilities are very they're like making bespoke phones. They make a handful of phones every quarter.
Artisanal phones.
Yeah, artisanal phones.
Each one is handcrafted.
Yeah. They might as well be at this point.
Can we get Johnny Ive's voice in here to do that?
Oh man. Oh, can you imagine if they made a handcrafted iPhone and how much they could charge for it?
Oh my god. Every single one has been kissed by Johnny Ive.
Like they could probably charge $10,000 for a hand-built iPhone, and people would pay it.
Yeah, how much did they charge for the first gen Apple Watch? That was the edition one or whatever. It was like
I forget.
thousands of dollars.
I think it started.
The high end was 12,000.
Yeah, man. The fact that Apple has not made a luxury iPhone is kind of surprising.
It is almost. Yeah, there's definitely a market for it.
Well, do this like some
There
of
were
those
rumors that that's what the
renders are doing. Yeah, some of those renders are true. They'll probably charge a lot for the iPhone 8 with that.
Oh yeah, I think everybody's kind of settled on the fact that the iPhone 8 is going to be significantly more expensive than iPhones of before.
It's going to be a legit price jump, not just like nudged up for spec thing. It's
going to be quite
expecting that's $1,000 phone.
Oh, probably close to that to start.
Well, because it's the 10th anniversary, so 10th anniversary, $1,000. Everything's in tens. It's okay.
Doesn't the iPad Pro go up to like 1,600? The new one.
Oh yeah, it's
Something
insane.
like that.
For the cellular, like 256
geez.
gigabyte, 12.3 or whatever.
I can't. Do you know how great of a computer you could build for $1,600?
Oh my god, you could build a fantastic gaming rig for $1,600.
Man.
And then you could spend your extra money on a really nice dinner and not an iPad.
But Ryan, don't you know anything you can do on a computer, you can do on an iPad? At least that's what their Twitter account tells you.
That is a monstrous lie. That is the greatest lie in the history of mankind.
Like that is such bollocks. It's not even funny.
So, yeah, I think that kind of covers the Pixel stuff for this week. I don't know if anybody else have anything they wanted to discuss.
Well, not to totally throw it back to that, but did we want to talk about Google hiring the Apple?
Oh yeah,
because it's still on the Pixel topic, definitely.
So Google hired the guy who was leading Apple's SoC efforts for a while. Longtime industry veteran, and so they brought him in, according to Variety, specifically to lead the effort to develop a system on a chip that's going to be used in future Pixel devices, which is
Yes.
very exciting.
Yeah, so obviously not this one that's upcoming, but maybe the one after that.
I would say maybe the one after that, probably more
Yeah. Well,
Well,
realistic.
hasn't Google been rumored to be doing this for a while though?
Yeah.
They've been hiring people for a long time, but
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
apparently, like Variety said, there were even newer job listings now. People specifically to work on a mobile SoC, and
so if Google does this, I think we could expect future Pixel phones to be stupid fast. They're already stupid fast, but even stupid faster and more efficient.
yeah, I mean, kind of I don't know very much about this stuff. This is well outside of my area of expertise. But given how much Google has played up, its work with TPUs and how they allow AI to work so much more efficiently than traditional GPUs or CPUs. You have to wonder if that's kind of the pie in the sky goal here eventually, is to make a mobile SoC that has TPUs in it and can do on-device processing of AI and similar functions at crazy speeds.
I kind of wonder if it's on a tablet first.
I mean, what's really a bummer though is they ditched the Nexus name, and having an AI phone that was called Nexus would just make a lot of sense.
Oh man, that would have been so awesome.
At I/O, Googlers were talking a lot about how much attention they paid to the performance of the Pixel. I mean, how they worked on optimizing for the Snapdragon 821, like to the point of obsession. Like, I don't know if I'm probably not allowed to say this, but whatever. But they would like actually film the phone. Like they used high-speed cameras to film the phone and watch for dropped frames. So if they have their own hardware, like they can build to spec for these phones, I can only imagine like how crazy that would be.
It's probably close to iOS level frame rates,
or possibly even better. I mean, I would say also Apple, still does a very good job on their SoCs.
Like the Apple A series SoCs are widely regarded as very impressive chips.
Yeah, especially in terms of just, single thread performance and power efficiency. Apple seems to have those things. But I mean, all of that comes down to an extent too, the fact that, well, Apple controls everything from the top down. So they're able to optimize just so well for everything because they control every part of the stack. So at the same time, I feel that it's very ambitious for Google to get into the mobile SoC business because there are so many moving parts at this point. You have the radios too. I mean, you can buy a Qualcomm radio, sure, but then you have the Wi-Fi, you have the Bluetooth, you have all these other parts that are getting involved, power management, GPU. I don't think Google's going to build its own GPU. That doesn't seem very likely. So there's just so many different pieces. It just sounds like something that could take a while to really do right if they want to do it right.
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do is pull an NVIDIA where you say, hey, look, we created this new core. We're going to put it in a thing like really soon and then have it be an utter disaster.
Or like Xiaomi where you come out with the new SoC and then it's not a top tier spec thing. It's more for low, middle.
Well, NVIDIA hyped Denver for years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
and then it turned out to just be absolute crap.
Yeah, but like the first, I think that like their whatever developer event they're at, they had like the early test version. Like this is the first working prototype that the core is like functional, and then it was like 8 or 9 months later, I think, that it came out in the Nexus 9, and like it was bad.
Was it the Nexus 9 or was it one of the Shield tablets?
It was the Nexus 9. It had the Denver version of the K1.
Yeah, I don't think the Shield tablets had Denver.
No, it did not. No, that was the quad core, just ARM reference cores.
Yeah. Poor Nexus 9.
Though all that said, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days, all of a sudden, Denver pops back up and they're like, no, remember last time? Forget that. We fixed it. It's good now.
I doubt it. I don't know. I think that one, NVIDIA, it got stung pretty bad.
Yeah, I remember we were talking to them about something a while back, and I asked their PR people like why. This would have been, I guess, about a year after the Nexus 9. I was like, why aren't you guys using Denver cores? And they're like, we're doing like a TikTok release cycle. So this time it's ARM, and next time it'll be Denver, and that obviously never happened.
Well, haven't they refocused a lot of their SoC efforts on cars?
They have, yeah. NVIDIA's totally pivoted to the embedded on their mobile stuff, without a doubt. Yeah, so that's definitely happened.
Not to mention the
Yeah,
Titan.
there's going to be a ridiculous amount of money in that. So
Yeah, Nvidia's definitely gone that way, and I wonder if Nvidia's ever going to release a new Shield tablet.
Probably
I
not.
don't know. It feels like at this point, I don't know why they would. I mean, I feel like they'll probably keep making a Shield TV because they really, really, really want people to subscribe to their game streaming thing.
They pick that up all the time, like because I run an NVIDIA GPU. There's Shield ads plastered all over the driver program.
I would like a new Shield portable. I would like them to do that. That would be great.
That'd be fantastic.
I think that's never going to happen.
I know. I know.
You have to know they were contemplating it too, but yeah, I just don't think it's going to be a thing. All right. So, with that news out of the way, I'll ask one more time if anybody had any other burning stories they wanted to, or burning maybe not stories, other things they wanted to.
Yeah, new Metroid games, everybody.
Oh, man. Yeah, I was not paying attention to E3 almost at all because the chance that I'll buy a new console is basically 0%.
Yeah, probably not.
I was paying attention for that Destiny 2, but as soon as I saw the Prime 4, it wasn't even anything. It was just the logo and the original theme music from the first Prime. And I was just sitting here in my chair going, oh my God.
Nintendo knows how to play on nostalgia like no other company.
I know, right?
Well, I kept telling my wife, like, you know what? If Nintendo does a new Prime game, I will buy a Switch. Until that point, I will not buy one.
Didn't they also show off that weird Mario game where you can like possess people by throwing your hat at them?
I don't know. I don't pay
Yes.
attention to Mario, but
That's like a very Japan thing.
that, and there's a new 2D Metroid coming for the 3DS in mid-September.
I would maybe play that. I played the original Metroid on the NES when I was a kid many years ago. It was my favorite game.
Metroid is fantastic, and I remember playing the Prime games on the GameCube first, and then 3 on the Wii, and they were just. I preferred Prime to Halo, even though it was on the single analog stick GameCube controller. But anyway, that was my exciting news for the week.
Yeah, I didn't really pay too close of attention to E3, but it sounded like it was more exciting than last year's, at least.
It's probably one of the better ones in recent memory. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
That was
Well,
the news stealer this week.
I think then that wraps it up for us this week. So thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you all next time.
Bye.
later.
All right, I am going to stop the broadcast.